209 days after Russia first invaded Ukraine, the war is still raging on. It was a war Russian President Vladimir Putin expected to dominate in just 2 days.
Yeah, that is what he thought. Now, almost 7 months later, that leader is calling up 300,000 members of the military reserve. Putin is warning the West to stay out of this conflict and threatening to use any means, including weapons of mass destruction.
Let's dig into what the U.S. is doing to support Ukraine and the efforts to bring the refugees to America, including right here in the Triad. Starting a look at front lines from Deborah Patter.
Vladimir Putin's been pushed into a corner.
Only
Only reservists will be drafted, he announced today. The priority, those with military expertise and experience. But it is Putin who has come out guns blazing, warning the West he still has weapons of mass destruction, read that as nuclear, and he's prepared to use them. We will use all the means at our disposal to protect Russia and our people, he said. This is not a bluff. With his back against the wall, Putin's war is going very badly for him.
This is how far Ukrainian soldiers have pushed back Russian troops. The nearest Russian border post just over 2 miles down this road, which is why we have to be quick, because even though this village is liberated, Russian artillery can still strike here.
Kazachia Lopan was seized on the very first day of the war. The National Guard's 3rd Brigade is holding it down, but it is not easy. I think we have this fully under control, said Unit Commander nicknamed Oplot. The enemy has fully retreated from this territory.
Is it totally free? Because we're still hearing the sound of artillery.
Our aim is not to let the enemy ever enter here again. Both sides are still losing men in these border towns, and these fighters know full well it's one thing to take back territory, quite another to hold onto it permanently.
Putin is also organizing referendums in some of the occupied territories east of here to force through a vote to become part of Russia. Once that happens, it sets the stage for him to claim an attack on those regions is an attack on Russia.
Well, President Joe Biden addressed the United Nations today. The bulk of his speech was a forceful condemnation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and a call to nations to stand in solidarity with the country.
This war is about extinguishing Ukraine's right to exist as a state, plain and simple, and Ukraine's right to exist as a people. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whatever you believe, that should make your blood run cold.
President Biden accused Russia of shamelessly violating the core principles of the United Nations with its war in Ukraine. He also said Russia is trying to erase a sovereign state from the map, and he called on world leaders to hold the Kremlin accountable.
Like you, the United States wants this war to end on just terms, on terms we all signed up for, that you cannot seize a nation's territory by force. That the only country standing in the way of that is Russia. So we, each of us in this body, who's determined to uphold the principles and beliefs we pledge to defend as members of the United Nations, must be clear, firm, and unwavering in our resolve. Ukraine has the same rights that belong to every sovereign nation. We will stand in solidarity with Ukraine. We will stand in solidarity against Russia's aggression, period.
More than 150,000 Ukrainian refugees were given permission to travel to the U.S. Tens of thousands of them came through a private sponsorship program called Uniting for Ukraine. It was set up by the U.S. government to bypass the traditional refugee system. It enlists everyday Americans like you at home and big groups to directly finance the resettlement.
This program will be fast, it will be streamlined, and will ensure the United States honors its commitment to go to the people of Ukraine and need not go through our southern border.
North Carolina officials say the state's expecting to take in nearly 3,000 Ukrainian refugees. That's by the end of this month. So far, 78 of those refugees are right here in Guilford County. And while family members or private groups paid for the refugees to come here, North Carolina African Services Coalition says there are a lot of other resources out there.
There are a lot of services which they are eligible for, just like every refugees. So the difference between the refugees and Ukrainian or the Afghan parolees and Ukrainian is the Ukrainians cannot be eligible for those initial services, but they are eligible for those services beyond the 3 months period that we provide for other refugees.
That includes employment help, job training, supplemental security income, application access, Medicaid, supplemental nutrition assistance, school enrollment, ASL class, mental health care, youth services, and a micro enterprise program for people who want to start their own business.
It is, a great resource for them to go and get started with. That's why we're just getting this information out there. Whoever knows, the Ukrainian out there, they can send them to our way. We are providing this service for them. And we have staff member, case managers that will be assigned to them, and so that they can enroll them to the program and able to work with them to situate them, on their transition.
The opportunity to come here to the Triad, to Greensboro, is something dozens of Ukrainian refugees say they are grateful for. Earlier this summer, WFMY News 2 spoke to a refugee family brought to Greensboro thanks to the Fred Astaire Dance Studio, which is sponsoring 15 refugees, giving them housing and a place to work.
We try to leave our country after 2 weeks of beginning. We are in safety here. We understand this that this is a good place for our children to not hear any explosion. We are lucky to have an opportunity to be here.
As time drags on, it is tempting to tune out the war in Ukraine, but people are still suffering.
And it is still having an impact right here on the U.S. economy.
So anytime there's another big development, we're going to be right there to dig into it.